Tesla Shorts Time Daily, episode 429. Hey, it's Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for joining me on Tesla Shorts Time Daily. Today is April 7th, 2026. Let's catch up on what actually moved the needle for Tesla in the last 24 hours. The biggest headline is that Tesla has once again taken the global EV sales crown in the first quarter, edging out BYD, even though the company's own vehicle deliveries only grew about 6% year over year. That's a modest increase by Tesla's historical standards, and it came during a period when EV growth slowed in several key regions. At the same time, the energy business posted a roughly 15% decline, which probably raised a few eyebrows heading into earnings season. According to EVTech.News, the results still underline Tesla's scale advantage and the strength of its brand. Even when the broader market gets choppy, buyers keep choosing Tesla when they decide to go pure electric. I think what's interesting here is how the narrative has shifted. A few years ago, 6% growth would have felt like a disappointment. Now, against a backdrop of softening demand in Europe and parts of China, holding the top spot feels like a quiet flex. It suggests that Tesla's combination of software features, brand cachet, and consistent product improvements still give it an edge that pure hardware competitors are finding hard to replicate. For the business itself, this matters because it shows the company can defend its position without needing explosive growth everywhere at once. It also gives management a bit more breathing room as they juggle everything from new vehicle programs to autonomy development. The win isn't flashy, but it's the kind of steady positioning that compounds over time. That global picture looks even more nuanced when you zoom into specific markets. In South Korea, Tesla posted a staggering 335% jump in first quarter deliveries. That number stands in sharp contrast to the overall 6% growth globally and the softness we're seeing in some other regions. According to TipRanks, the surge highlights how demand can stay remarkably resilient in certain countries when the right conditions line up. Local incentives, improved Model Y availability, and growing familiarity with the brand all seem to be playing a role. What I find encouraging is that it shows Tesla isn't uniformly exposed to the same headwinds. While some markets are clearly cooling, others are still accelerating. That kind of geographic diversification is healthy. It reminds me that the EV slowdown story we keep hearing isn't a straight line, it's patchy. Product mix matters too. In South Korea, the mix of available models and perhaps some refreshed versions seem to be landing exactly where buyers are. For Tesla's longer-term strategy, this kind of result validates the decision to keep refining the existing lineup while the next generation of vehicles is still in development. It's proof that the current cars still have plenty of runway in the right markets. Good sales momentum is always nicer when it's paired with fewer headaches in Washington. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has officially closed its investigation into Tesla's remote control feature. The probe started in early 2025 after about 100 reported crashes involving nearly 2.6 million vehicles. According to Inside EVs, the closure removes one lingering cloud that had been hanging over the advanced driver assistance side of the business. For a company that moves as fast on software as Tesla does, every open regulatory file creates uncertainty that can slow down releases and distract engineering teams. What's striking is how little detail has come out about exactly why the investigation closed. That lack of fanfare makes me think the issue may have been narrower than the initial headlines suggested. Either way, it's a quiet but meaningful win. Tesla can now push forward with software updates and future autonomy work without that particular overhang. Of course, safety questions around new features will keep coming. That's the territory Tesla operates in. The closure feels like validation that the data Tesla provided satisfied the agency, which should give owners a bit more confidence and give the company a cleaner runway heading into the rest of the year. With one less thing to worry about from regulators, Tesla is turning its attention back to the everyday infrastructure that owners actually touch. The company just opened a new charging hub in Navi Mumbai, right in the Mumbai metropolitan area. According to Indica News, the site strengthens the supercharger footprint in India and gives current owners a more reliable network while the company figures out its longer-term plans for the country. Reliable charging is still one of the tallest barriers to EV adoption in emerging markets like India. Range is one thing, but the fear of being stranded somewhere without a fast charger is something else entirely. By putting steel in the ground before launching vehicles at scale, Tesla is following its classic playbook. Build the network first, then bring the cars. The timing feels strategic too. India is slowly warming to electric mobility, policy support is improving in some states, and Tesla has been weighing its entry options carefully. This new hub won't single-handedly change the market, but it improves the ownership experience for the early adopters who are already driving Teslas there. It also sends a clear signal that the company is serious about India rather than just testing the waters. That infrastructure-heavy mindset stands in pretty stark contrast to how Tesla's biggest rival is approaching the same challenge. BYD and Tesla are clearly pursuing different philosophies when it comes to supporting their electric vehicles. Tesla keeps doubling down on its supercharger network, treating fast charging as a core part of the ownership promise. BYD, on the other hand, has leaned into alternative pathways that include more partnerships, home charging emphasis, and in some cases battery swapping concepts in certain markets. According to Clean Technica, this contrast reveals how infrastructure philosophy ends up shaping brand positioning and the day-to-day customer experience in ways that go beyond the cars themselves. I find this difference genuinely fascinating because there isn't one universally correct answer. In North America and Europe, Tesla's closed ecosystem of superchargers has built enormous trust. Owners know they can travel long distances with confidence. In other parts of the world, different economics and different consumer habits might reward BYD's more flexible approach. For the broader industry, this split is healthy. It forces everyone to keep innovating on both the vehicle side and the energy side. As the transition accelerates, we'll get to see which model scales more efficiently and which one customers ultimately prefer in different regions. My sense is both strategies will coexist for a long time, and the winners will be the ones that adapt fastest to local conditions. That competitive pressure is showing up in product announcements as well. Rivian just teased details on its upcoming R2 compact SUV, claiming it could deliver 335 miles of EPA range at a price below $60,000. That's a combination Tesla has not yet matched in that segment of the market. According to How to Geek, the claim puts noticeable pressure on whatever Tesla eventually brings to the compact crossover space. For customers, it's exciting because it suggests range anxiety at more accessible price points might ease faster than many expected across the whole industry. What stands out to me is how quickly the goalposts keep moving. Not that long ago, 300 miles of range at that price would have seemed ambitious. Now it's becoming the new benchmark competitors are setting. It's a reminder that battery chemistry, thermal management, and vehicle efficiency are all improving steadily, and no single company has a permanent lead. Tesla will obviously have its own next-generation compact models in development, but the timeline and final specs are still under wraps. In the meantime, announcements like Rivian's keep the entire sector honest. They force everyone to keep pushing on cost and performance rather than coasting on past advantages. We'll see how Tesla chooses to respond when those vehicles finally arrive, but the bar is clearly rising. While the product race heats up, one of Tesla's most visible institutional supporters just doubled down. Cathie Wood's ARK funds bought roughly $14 million worth of Tesla shares across 3 different exchange-traded funds during the recent price pullback. According to Benzinga, the purchases reflect continued long-term conviction from one of the company's most outspoken believers. This comes at a moment when several more traditional Wall Street voices have grown noticeably more cautious about valuation and near-term growth. I've always viewed Cathie's approach as a high-conviction bet on the full stack of Tesla's technology, from energy to autonomy to robotics. Buying on weakness is classic for her, and it often generates chatter about whether smart money sees current levels as attractive again. Of course, one fund's buying doesn't change the underlying fundamentals, but it does tend to influence sentiment. In a market that can swing dramatically on quarterly delivery numbers or a single Rivian announcement, these kinds of moves get noticed. It will be interesting to see whether this latest vote of confidence proves well-timed or whether broader economic conditions end up testing that conviction further. It's also worth sitting with the regulatory story for an extra minute because it carries some important context. The NHTSA closing its remote control investigation is clearly positive. Yet it follows months of scrutiny and reports of about 100 crashes involving a fleet of nearly 2.6 million vehicles. Those numbers are tiny when you consider how many miles Tesla vehicles drive every day, but headlines around any crash involving advanced driver assistance tend to land hard. The episode is a useful reminder of how quickly safety questions can escalate, even when the statistical record looks relatively clean. The good news is that Tesla now has one less distraction and can iterate faster on software. At the same time, the company will need to keep showing that its validation processes stay ahead of what regulators and the public expect. I think this tension between innovation speed and thorough safety proofing is going to remain a central theme for years. Tesla has demonstrated it can adapt after incidents, but the scrutiny isn't going away. Getting the balance right is one of the hardest parts of trying to bring autonomous technology into the world at scale. The closure feels like a step forward, but it doesn't close the book on the broader conversation. Taking a step back from the daily noise, it's worth applying some first principles thinking to something that could matter a lot in the years ahead. When do battery electric heavy trucks actually become economically superior to diesel for most real-world duty cycles? The answer, surprisingly, isn't mainly about the absolute cost per kilowatt hour of batteries. It's far more sensitive to annual mileage, electricity rates, and how well the charging infrastructure matches real freight routes. Think about it. A typical North American Class 8 truck might travel between 120,000 and 150,000 kilometers a year. At electricity prices of 12 to 15 cents per kilowatt hour and today's diesel prices, the fuel savings alone can offset a $150,000 to $200,000 higher upfront cost within about 3 years for high utilization fleets, assuming efficiency around 2 to 3 kilowatt hours per kilometer. But if utilization drops or charging access is poor, the math flips quickly. Lower mileage routes or remote operations still favor diesel. This is why Tesla designs the Semi the way it does. From the ground up, it uses cell-to-pack integration and structural battery elements to cut weight and cost. At the same time, the company is deliberately placing megachargers at high-traffic depots so fleets can actually hit the utilization numbers the physics demands. Tesla treats energy cost and uptime as first-order variables rather than simply dropping big batteries into an existing diesel chassis. The bet is that it can reshape enough of the freight network through better route predictability, depot charging, and fleet optimization to make those favorable conditions the norm rather than the exception. In fragmented, low-mileage, or remote operations, diesel will probably keep the edge for a while. The real question is how quickly Tesla and the industry can tilt the playing field. Before we wrap up, keep an eye tomorrow on how the market digests these mixed delivery signals alongside the latest competitive claims coming from both Rivian and BYD. The story is never simple, but that's what makes it interesting. TSLA closed today at $352.82, up $2.92 or 0.8%. If today's update was useful, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify really does help new listeners find the show. You can also find us on X at Tesla Shorts Time. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you tomorrow. This podcast is curated by Patrick, but generated using AI voice synthesis of my voice using ElevenLabs. The primary reason to do this is I unfortunately don't have the time to be consistent with generating all the content and wanted to focus on creating consistent and regular episodes for all the themes that I enjoy, and I hope others do as well.